Hello, 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 and welcome to Black Enough, Man Enough Live. I am Daniel P. Calderon. I am the founder of Work From Home, hashtag Work From Home, and the founder of Entrepreneurs of Tomorrow. And I am so grateful for Gee for partnering with us to produce basically the manifestation of his newly released book, Black Enough, Man Enough. And I'm just so excited about what this book is going to do for the world and what it's going to do for our individual communities. So a little bit about Entrepreneurs of Tomorrow. We are going to be launching, actually this coming Monday, internship for high school students, teaching them the foundations of entrepreneurship, and all to really push focus on community work and exactly what they need to do to make a change in their communities. So what better time than now to be doing this, and what better time than now to have books that Gee is putting out into the world, Black Enough, Man Enough, to talk about the issues that we have long been so scared to talk about. So right now, I'm going to introduce Mr. Gee Smalls, the man of the hour. Everyone, give him a virtual hand clap. Hey, what's going on, Gee? How are you?
I am good. I'm excited. Thank you for that wonderful intro, and congratulations on the launch of your new project. I know it's been a long time coming, and thank you for continuing the great work that you're doing to push the community forward.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, you know what I'm most excited about, though, is you, Gee, because we have started the hashtag Beam Challenge, and people are just being so creative, so creative.
That's crazy.
I just want to appreciate everyone that's just being a part. And if you have not done a Beam Challenge, it's kind of like the book to your face and kind of playing off of the really cool stylistic cover that Gee's team has done. But if you want to be a part of the Beam Challenge, please tag us in your photos, tag Gee Smalls, and do hashtag Beam Challenge. So what have you been most excited to see since you released the book?
I think it's exactly what you're talking about, is the support. Everybody, excited to get the book, excited to read the book, excited to take pictures with the book. That just affirms me in so many ways. And so I'm really excited about that. And I'm starting to get messages from people who have finished reading the book. And so all of those messages about how it resonates with them, and thanking me for being so vulnerable, because it is a very vulnerable book. So to put myself out there, to know it's embraced by the readers, that's all I can ask for.
Yeah. And we're going to cut this part of the conversation short, because I know everyone wants to hear the excerpt that you're going to read tonight. And then also, it's so cool to have the real life characters in the book, which are really humans, right, on the show. So I'm excited to hear what Gregory Smalls, which we call Lil Gee. I don't know if he likes that name or not. But
he's cool with it.
He's cool with it? Okay, cool. Caleb Anthony, and then also Tony Christon-Walker, who is going to join the conversation and talk about his book. So we're excited about his release as well. So without further ado, everyone, Gee Smalls, Black Enough, Man Enough Live.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you. So tonight I am going to be reading from chapter 22. The chapter is called Not the White Mother. And if you joined my conversation, the first conversation I had with my mom, you probably can know why I titled the chapter that. But this is. So I'm just gonna go ahead and jump right into it. Not the White Mother, chapter 22, page 265. It was 6 weeks after Lil Gee started at Inman Middle School, less than a mile from where we lived. One day after school, while he was at the dining table doing his homework, I heard him yell my name while I was in my office about 15 feet away. I knew he must have had a question about one of his assignments, so I stopped what I was doing and walked in to help. What's up? I got to draw a picture and tell a story about the people who live in my house. Can I just say that you and can I just say you and me live here? Instantly, my heart broke. My biggest fear had come true. My son was ashamed of his gay dad. I did everything in my power, even moved into this expensive ass neighborhood that we could not afford, just so he could go to the best, most diverse school, and he was still ashamed of me. I did everything I could except keep him here 3 years ago instead of letting Carla take him back to Charleston. I immediately regretted my decision. I knew he had most likely been brainwashed into feeling he should be ashamed of me. The thought of what he has heard quickly turned my heartbreak into anger, and I lashed out, but not at the right person. Instead, I lashed out at my baby boy. Why? Why do you want to lie and not tell them that Juan lives here? Are you ashamed of me? Are you ashamed of your father, G? I yelled, my eyes beaming with anger and veins popping out of my temples. I reminded myself of my mother. I'm not ashamed. Lil Gee could barely get his words out as his eyes welled up with tears. I immediately felt guilty for taking my anger out on him. You can do what you want to do, G. I just encourage you to tell the truth. I never did look to see what decision he had made. I don't think my heart could take it. So, and with that, I want to bring in my son, Lil Gee, Gregory Smalls Jr. What's up, baby boy?
Hey, what's up?
So everybody, this is my son. I know many of you recognize him. Anybody who follows me know that I am very proud to be a father. It's one of the titles that I wear the proudest. So this is the little man of the hour, and I just want to just jump right into asking you some questions about your experience. So the first thing I want to know is how did it feel reading about yourself? Because I'm telling my story, which involves you, and it tells a bit of your story too. So what was it like reading that book and reading about yourself?
It was just kind of like some stuff. It was kind of like, dang, like I can't believe he even remembered it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
It was just and then like, of course, I got my own way of telling the story, so it's kind of like a little bit fibberish.
Fibberish.
So, yeah, like it was a little bit like some of it I didn't agree with, like that didn't happen like that, you know.
Like it wasn't your experience of a situation.
Mm-mm.
Me and you.
No.
So let me ask you about, since we're talking about situations, what about the passage that I just read? Do you remember that?
Yeah, and it went just like that too.
Yeah, well, I know that you remember because actually you read the book and I didn't have that in there. And I think we had talked about the book and you talked about that experience. And I was like, I can't believe I forgot that. And I made sure I put it back in the book. So you had to be maybe 12 or 13 at the time.
Yeah, I was.
Why do you think you remember that situation so vividly?
I mean, I don't know. It was kind of like I just moved there, and it was kind of like one of the first biggest like altercation that we had. So
yeah,
and we was going through a lot while we was living there too. So I remember the house and everything. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you, how did you feel and why did you want to, if you remember, why didn't you want to share who your household was? Why didn't you want to share that it was me, you, and Juan instead of just me and you?
Well, because it was my first year at this new school, I didn't want, like, from what I can remember, I didn't want that to be what people know me as at the school. You know what I'm saying? Like the dude boy with the gay dad or whatever. So it was more just about like peer pressure and just like not wanting people to know, like the first thing they know.
It was something that you felt that was to be ashamed of. Like that ain't the greatest thing in the world to have a gay dad.
No, not in middle school. And like around that time, it was kind of like being gay was kind of like new. You know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't something that was like how it is now. I guess it was new to me too. So
right. Yeah, and you had been living in Charleston for the past 3 years prior to that. What do you feel like leading up until this time? What do you feel like your outlook was on gay people, the LGBT community. I know I throughout our relationship have identified with a lot of different terms, but at this time, I was identifying as gay. So what was your outlook of what it meant to be gay at the time?
Um, I mean, like just like I mean, what it meant, like just I didn't have I didn't have any hard feelings towards you. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of like what people would think of me. You know, so
Right.
I didn't
Did you
like
ever
I
feel like did you ever feel like you resented me or was upset with me? And I use that for lack of a better term because of the fact that you could be shamed for who I am.
no, I was never mad at you. Like I never had any type of like animosity or nothing towards you or nothing like I hated you for that. It was kind of like something that I was learning how to deal with. Like, how am I
Right.
going to like go about this? Because it's something that it couldn't be changed, and you know, it's not that I wanted to change it either. It just I wanted to learn how to, you know, how to move with
How
it. You know,
to how to embrace that part of who
yeah,
you are, right?
yeah.
So then how do you feel like you did that? Like at some point you got to a point, I know do you remember the first time that you told somebody that about me and who that person was?
No, it had to be like a girlfriend or something, but
I think I remember you having a girlfriend, and I think you told her, and because one of her best friends was gay or something, and then I think she actually thought it was cool.
yeah,
I think she
yeah.
thought it was cool. But what made you? What made you get to the point, or what brought you to the point of feeling comfortable with who I was and sharing that with your own world? Like, what do you think brought you to that point, and when did you get to that point?
Uh, I really like. I got to the point where it was. I probably started high school. Like I was going to Grady, and Grady is like in the middle of like Atlanta, so it's all different types of people.
Yeah,
So I
that's why
kind
we
of
moved there.
yeah, yeah. So I kind of just realized like, I mean, it is what it is, you know. I
So you
mean,
you realized that you felt like it wasn't such a bad thing?
yeah, I realized it wasn't a bad thing. Like I realized like it's really different, you know. And I see like it was a lot of mature people, you know what I'm saying, and it just
So did you experience the opposite someplace else that made you feel like you should be afraid or
yes.
fearful of what people might thought of you?
Hmm.
And where was that?
It was always in Charleston. It was
Do you feel like in Charleston people were just not as open minded and you didn't have the same exposure, I guess?
yeah, and then like when I was living in Charleston before high school, I was younger. Like I was in elementary school and middle school. So I don't know if it's because they wasn't understanding or we were just young.
I got you. So I know that you have been tormented and teased before.
Mhm.
Somebody, your gay daddy, that's why your daddy gay or whatever the case may be. How did you handle those situations?
Uh, it was like I kind of just made it seem like it didn't bother me, you know. Like
Yeah.
I just shrugged my shoulders because it was kind of like the last time I remember getting teased for that is I was probably like 9, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like I said, it was kind of like a new thing, you know, like people never really understood it at that time. I felt
Yeah.
like that was something that was just like new, I guess. And so I didn't really have nothing to say to that, you know what I'm saying? Like there's no comeback to that at that
It's
time
just like,
period.
okay.
Yeah.
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 So what about now? So you're 19 years old,
Mm.
fine young man you are. What about now? Like you, just like me, like we was having a conversation last week. And because some people sometimes may assume that I'm straight sometimes, and I still sometimes may go places where I have to, tell people that I'm not. So I'm, having to come out of the closet again, if you will. And you're the same way. I mean, by you having me as a dad, people going to assume that I'm straight, and eventually, you know, you have to say, oh no, my dad is not straight. I know you did the situation with your boss. You know, you work in a barbershop. I know he knows, and you had to tell him. So when in situations like that, do you get nervous? Do you have any feelings of having to talk about that, or is it just what it is?
No, it's kind of like now I'm willing to kind of like educate people on, you know.
Okay.
So when people mention it or bring it up, I'd be wanting them to ask me like, how was it growing up? You know what I'm saying? Like I'd be wanting them to ask me that question, but you can kind of tell they don't want to ask, you know?
Yeah.
So now like it's kind of like something I really appreciate because I mean now I feel like I have the ability to do anything, you know what I'm saying? No matter what it is, or you know, like I feel like I'm real open-minded. I learn, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm willing to learn something, and
Yeah.
I mean it's something that I feel like it was definitely worth going through, you know.
Oh, that makes me proud. I'm not gonna have a mushy. I'm not gonna get mushy. So I want to ask this question. Do you ever remember me not being who I am? Do you ever remember me being straight, if you will, and coming out to you?
I do remember the day that I remember that you told me that you were gay, but I do remember some pieces of you being straight, I guess, like when I was in, but
Like what? Like, for instance,
it wasn't it wasn't like no main event or nothing. It was just like you picking me up from school, and I remember me not knowing that you were gay, you know. And we was out to eat. It was just like small like memories. It wasn't nothing like big or nothing.
I mean, so I guess this is probably pre Juan, before meeting Juan, or some of those memories over 13 years ago. But do you remember me actually having the conversation with you?
I do. I feel like you had more than one though. Like, but I
Yeah.
do remember one we were staying in M West. Yeah.
What'd I say?
You basically just told me that everybody's different and it's okay and stuff like that. Like you could tell you was at that time you was trying to break it down to where like an 8-year-old would understand this.
Okay. Okay. So
So you was
let's
you were
move
using
on
like
to this question.
small terms and stuff.
Yeah. So did you ever question your own sexuality because of me?
Yeah, yeah. Like um
I've
when
never
I was
asked I've never asked this question
yeah.
before. This is real interesting to me.
Yeah. I mean it wasn't like a forever thought. Probably it got out of my mind, or I can't realize that, you know, like that's not who I am. You know what I'm saying? When I got to middle school. But like when you first told me that, it kind of made me think because I never knew like what it meant. You know what I'm saying? I never knew like, is it something that you can catch? You know what I'm saying? Is it
Yeah. So you thought it
so
was something that you could have inherited from me.
yeah.
Okay. And so was that scary?
Yeah, it was.
Or was it like, oh my God, am I gay too?
Yeah.
And how long did you go through that? And when did you realize that nobody can make you one way or the other when it comes to your sexuality?
uh it I mean it didn't really last like that long, but it kind of just it went away like before I got to middle school. I knew that for sure. So I was probably like
So you was
four.
that's when you wasn't living with me at the time, I guess.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No.
So my next question. You're doing a great job, by the way. What do you feel like has been the most difficult part of having a parent like myself?
I guess it was just kind of I don't the most difficult part was I guess being teased. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to explain that to other people, I guess. And kind of, it was more like how I felt like how other people was going to look at me or how people was going to treat me. You know what I'm saying? Like that was my biggest
Right.
concern.
Right.
And I mean, I can't think of anything that was super hard. The whole thing was kind of challenging, you know?
And let me ask you this question: do you think that if I was straight, would you still be worried about what people are going to think of you and treat you? Is that something that you feel like you wouldn't have experienced had you had a straight father?
I mean, hold on. Can you ask that question again?
Yeah, I guess what I'm asking you is, I think that a lot of us go through what will people think of me, how will people treat me in general, and I was asking you if you think that even if I was straight, do you think that you would still experience that for other reasons in general, or that's just what's kind of your cross to bear and to get over?
That was definitely the cross the bearing. Like I don't feel like I would have had that problem at all.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm glad you came out on the other side and you feel like it's made you stronger and you have become quite the ally. It's something I'm very extremely proud of. So last question before I bring you on, I'm going to bring in the other guys. Is what advice would you give another child, young boy, young girl who may have parents, if not straight, LGBT, trans, bisexual, gay, whatever the case may be? What kind of advice do you think that you would be able to offer them?
That have one or don't have one?
That you cut out a bit. What you say? I'm sorry.
That have one or don't have one?
No, the one that does. Like, what would you, if somebody is in, 6 or 7 years old or coming up with a gay parent, an LGBT parent, same gender loving parent, somebody who's not straight, what would be your piece of advice for them based off of your experience?
I mean, like, just, I don't know. You just gotta be strong but I feel like it's a different time now. You know what I'm saying? Like,
boy, you ain't that old. You're 19 years old. It was 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. It's just that the thing about it is you have matured, but there are still young kids right now. Actually, they're still grown adults that are still battling with this thing and still worried about what people are thinking of them, and they're getting shamed, and there are certain people still getting killed for it. You are quite an evolved young man. I don't know if you realize how evolved you are as a 19-year-old, but there are still a lot of kids that's not going to be as open as you are, and might not even be in an environment of people who are supportive of a family structure like that. So I don't want you to take for granted about where you have arrived in the person that you are, because you're not the norm. We hope to strive to get there, but there is a lot of people who still feel very shamed and don't know what to do. And I think that you have a great voice, and I don't think you need to take for granted what you might be able to offer some of those kids.
I feel like you just gotta love yourself. Like, I mean, you gotta like find something seriously, because it's something that, I mean, you can't change it. You just gotta find something inside that's gonna make you go hard.
I love that you said the answer was love yourself, because regardless of your parents, regardless of your friends, it is all about you loving yourself and being confident with who you are. So, I mean, I think that was some great piece of advice. So, if anybody has any questions, the people that are watching, I'm going to save some questions to the end. Lil Gee is going to hang out to the end, and we'll get those questions to him. But I'm going to go ahead and bring in my other two guests, please. Mr. Tony Christon-Walker. Did I say that right, Christon? You're on mute.
Christon, like Christ on, yeah.
Christon-Walker, who is the author of Walking in Truth, Fatherhood. I just learned of your book, maybe not even a week ago. I remember somebody posted about our book, and I was super excited to pick up and read this book because I know you're talking about the SGL fatherhood experience, and I'm halfway through the book. It's very good, so make sure y'all pick up this book.
Look, I just bought yours. Listen to you and G, I just bought yours. I'm like, shit.
Well, you're going to have to let me know what you think, because I'm already seeing a lot of similarities.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. The conversation y'all were just having. Yeah,
it's crazy.
Crazy.
And I also have Caleb Anthony, who is a longtime friend of mine. And Caleb is an IT professional, right?
Yes, I am.
IT professional.
Going in a different profession now, but yes, I am an IT professional. But can I just say this? Let me interject real quick. Lil Gee, man, hearing you talk to your father, we're in the private chat talking, and I'm like wanting to tear up because I see G, me, and I see you, my son, because my son's name is Caleb. And I just cannot wait to have this kind of conversation with my son. And you just don't realize how the questions that the conversation that you all have had has been the conversation that plays over and over and over in my head between my son and I. And so I'm just sitting here watching this and I'm like writing little stuff like, damn, that's my biggest fear. This right here, I needed to hear this because it's the things that you all are saying. And I was talking to Tony on the sideline and Tony was like, man, you know, times have changed because I did this twice. I did this in the 90s and I did this in the 10s. I guess it's how you would say it now, the 10s.
Yeah.
So it was really beautiful to hear the two of you all talk, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. I mean, I can't stop saying I couldn't be more proud of my son. But Caleb, I mean, it just takes me like, how old is your son right now?
He's 3, and he's actually been running in and out this room since we've been on this. So he's in the room next door watching Scooby-Doo, I think.
Scooby-Doo, that's old school.
Very old school, but I think it's his older cousin that's got him watching it now. Now he's like, Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? Let's watch that, Daddy.
Right. So real quick, Caleb, how was your son brought into the world?
My son was brought into the world.
We know how he was brought into the world. We know how it works, but you know what I'm asking.
Yeah, it was an interesting situation, but in a nutshell, it was through what I would call traditional surrogacy. Traditional surrogacy is when you have a gestational carrier, the person that's actually carrying the child, and an egg donor all in one. I talked to a young lady that I had somewhat of a relationship with, and she had Caleb.
Okay. So you guys were listening to the passage, and I'm going to ask you as well, Tony, the passage that I read from my book about the situation with my son. Caleb, you haven't gotten there yet. It's possible that you will get there. Who knows? But how do you feel like you would experience that situation, and how do you feel like you would respond? Hopefully not like I did, but you know, it's real. It's what happened. I always tell people, parents are people too, and we have feelings, you know. But how do you feel like you would handle that situation?
Well, hearing actually the two of you all have that conversation makes me want to be sure that I continue to educate my son that he has 2 fathers. And I say that is because I'm engaged. And my spouse and I, we live in the same house. And we both are raising our child. And I want him to grow up knowing that he has strength, that he has 2, not one dad, but he has 2 dads, 2 loving dads that care for him, that are going to always be there for him. And I think that it's important to continue to instill that. So hearing that conversation with you all, and I'm not saying anything that Lil Gee didn't feel any type of way, or Lil Gee just didn't have that courage. I just want to make sure that courage is there. For when Caleb does get older, you know, he knows to say, or he feels that he can say that, hey, I have 2 dads and I don't care what anyone thinks. And I know that's even harder to say. That's harder to say or harder to act out, especially hearing your story. But That's all I can say.
You know, I'll tell you, Caleb. Because your son is also growing up in a household of two parents that are have the same messaging in the same way you're raising them. I think that's going to be a huge advantage for you. Obviously, the dynamics of my situation with my son was a bit different on how everything transpired. But it's I have more hope for what your situation might turn out like. Tony,
I don't think Caleb is going to have any problems. So
yeah.
I said I had this like.
I'm a little jealous of Caleb.
No.
I'm obviously much older than the both of you. So like I had this with my son who I had the old fashioned way. I had it with my son that my husband and I adopted. And I also had it with my granddaughter. I have 3 grandchildren as well. So, but in each of those are all a little bit different. In the 90s, when I had custody of my 2 boys, and their mother pretty much threatened to tell them that I was gay. And I decided, well, you can't tell it but once, and I can tell it better than you. So I took my son out to a mall, and we walked, and he was 9 years old, a Lil Gee. And so he was like, I was like, Clint, your dad needs to tell you something. I'm like, what? He was like, what? I'm like, well, you know, there are some boys that like girls, and then there are some boys that like other little boys.
That's kind of how I said it too.
Yeah. And I was like, you know, so, you know, me and your Uncle Cedric, like, we're like a couple, like we're together. And he looked at me at 9 years old. The only thing he said was, so you still my dad, right? And I was like, yes. Because that was all it took. My second experience with that was with Maurice, the child that my husband and I adopted 7 years ago now. We got him when he was 8. He's actually my biological nephew from my half sister who lives in Atlanta. So we all got these other connections. But with him, he was 8 when we got custody of him. And there was a song by Macklemore called Same Love. You know, when he says, when I was 8 years old, I thought I was gay. And every time we would play that, because we're a singing family, so every time we would play it in the car, Maurice would giggle. Every time he said gay, Maurice was like, and so I looked at Bobby one day, I'm like, we got a little homophobe in the back. So he did that for like maybe 2 or 3 months, and finally I was like, okay. So I was like, Maurice, why do you keep laughing when they say gay? He says, because it's nasty. And I was like, what do you mean? I said, Papa and Dad are gay. He goes, we never had that problem out of him again.
Yeah.
You know, because for Maurice, being in foster care, his whole goal was to find a family. I remember our first like supervised visit with him. He was distraught that he couldn't leave with us. And he had no idea we were about to become his parents. And so Caleb, the reason why I say your situation is going to be a little bit different. I have 3 granddaughters. One was prior to my marriage to my husband, and India was always asking, Papa, is Bobby your brother? Nope. Is he your cousin? Nope. Y'all just friends? I was like, yeah. And like, she was very, very inquisitive. There's something that happens in my book, and I'm not going to tell you what it was, but it forced me to tell her because she was asking a bunch of questions. And when I told her, she was pretty much like, well, does he have any brothers and sisters? I think she was trying to get more Christmas presents, you know. So and then my youngest granddaughter, my youngest 2 granddaughters, they've only known me and Bobby. Like they came into the world with 2 grandfathers.
Right.
And one day Carmen, she's a savage. Oh my God, that child. But one day Bobby and I went to bed because we were just in bed watching TV, and she says, Bobby, Tony, do you like boys? And I was like, no, I don't like boys. I like men. Like Bobby is my uncle. Bobby.
I like one man. My one man only.
And so she goes, "Oh, my mama like boys too." And that was.
You know, I always tell people, like kids, when people always ask me, when should I tell my child? When should I tell my child? As young as possible, you have that conversation with them. Because
I think at that age.
But not only that, in this day and age, you know, you may have to explain to them the dynamics, but like with Carmen and Lauren, that's all they've ever known. You know, like with Taylor, the reason why you won't have as much of a problem with him accepting you. Now you might have to whoop some folks at school if you go to ghetto school or something like that. But I doubt if you're gonna do that. But like even when we got Maurice in school, you know, we had I was doing traffic every morning. We were very involved in the school, and nobody bothered us. You know, in the 90s with my first child, you know, we weren't really out like that then, so it really wasn't a problem. You know, but I mean, things have changed drastically. I'm 53 years old.
You know what? I noticed that you said it would maybe perk up a little bit. Is you said, I think your son called your partner uncle, right? You said this is your uncle?
No. That was with Cedric. That was in the 90s.
Which was your partner, right?
He was my partner. We weren't
I
married.
always thought it was weird. I always thought that was weird when you say it's the uncle. Like, but that just speaks to the time, because that's what you used to say back then. That's what you used to say.
Do you remember the episode of Living Single when Regine and Khadijah had this friend who was coming to get married, and her partner had this really androgynous name? Kind of find out they were two women that were getting married.
Oh yeah, I do remember.
That's before my time.
Whatever.
Just playing.
but Regine was talking. Not Regine. Khadijah was talking to Kim Cole's character. She goes, "Well, I've never known any lesbians." And Queen Latifah was like, "Well, Aunt Susie and Aunt Jean were lesbians, but that's all that she knew. That they were their aunts, and one of them was their biological aunt, and one was their partner, and they just called her aunt." You know.
I want to shift gears a little bit, Caleb, and ask you, how would you feel if your son came out to be non-straight, if he was trans or he was gay, he was bi? Like, how would you feel?
So, I've actually been asked this question before, and I'm completely transparent. I'm going to first off say that nobody wants their child to be gay. And the reason why I say that is because we live in a world of ridicule. We live in a world of constant judgment, and nobody wants their child to live a hard track life. Nobody wants their child to be outside of what we consider the norm. So with that being said, of course, I wouldn't want my child to be gay, because I know what I went through. I also wouldn't want my child to live a povertous life. I wouldn't want my child to have to experience his first heartache or heartbreak. You get the lines that I'm going with.
Right.
Yeah. But with that being said, if my child was gay, I'm going to support him 110 million% because I'm gay. And I can give him the insight that my parents couldn't give me, because both of my parents live in a heterosexual life. I'd be able to let my son know, what to look out for and the things not to do, living this life the way that I've lived it, and not to make those same mistakes that I made. And that'd be the advice that I can give him. But I'd definitely be behind my son 100%. If he was gay, if he wanted to be trans, if whatever he wants to do, I'm gonna always love him no matter what, because that's my child. And shoot, without him, there is no me.
When G was much younger, and my relationship with Juan was really new. I was still trying to actually be comfortable with who I was and my sexuality, and what it meant to have a husband. And what it meant to raise a young boy in a household with two men who were in love. And I know that I used to almost like I feel like I used to like put a wall up when it came to being affectionate with my husband around Lil Gee. I noticed that I probably wasn't as affectionate with Lil Gee because I would always try to make sure that I was doing everything I could to make sure he was not going, which I knew better, but there was so much pressure on me as a parent, as an LGBT parent, that he did not turn out like me. And I didn't want to feel like I did anything to influence, my way of life on him when it came to,
Gee, that goes back to the conversation that the two of you all were having. Like, you just don't know how much I'm really appreciating this conversation, because that same mindset that you're having, and I know I live loud and free. Everybody that knows me knows that I'm gay. I go into the workplace. Hey, I'm gay, and this is my. Well, I don't say, hey, I'm gay. Hey, I have a spouse. My lover and I, we live together, and we have a child. I mean, I'm very, very loud about it, but I'm also very cognizant of the things that I do and the things that I say in front of my child, because I don't want to push my sexuality out on him, and I don't want to feel like.
What does that mean, though? What does that mean what do you feel like it means to push your sexuality on your son?
Ignorance, truthfully, because my parents didn't push their sexuality on me. I'm the gayest man alive. I'm not the gayest man alive, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Children.
That's I think that goes. It go. Even though we are who we are, we were still brought up a certain way to think a certain way.
Especially
and it takes work. It takes work to unravel all that stuff, Tony.
So knowing that sexuality is just innate in us and we can't change it. It is who we are. There are certain things, like I remember my husband has a cousin who we also have raised as our child, and he came out as gay about 2 years ago, and so my granddaughter and our adopted son are all 15 years old now, and one of Bobby's biggest fears was, if Monk says that he's gay, they're gonna think I did something. You can't influence. You can't influence that. And like Caleb said, that comes from a place of sheer ignorance. To the question of, would you want your child to be gay? No parent wants their child to live a harder life than they did. No matter if you grew up in poverty, whatever your situation is, you always want your child to live in a better situation. And I kind of struggled with that as well. But one thing I did realize is the fact that kids are going to be who they are. Our parents did not, like you said earlier, our parents' orientation didn't affect who we are. And, and it's hard in this world right now for people to really understand that, because someone's going to watch this video and say, oh, they're pushing the gay agenda on our children.
Yeah.
When we're adopting their children, when we are raising children, I have at least 10 kids that I raised that are not mine, so like, we're the ones who are raising their children. So when straight men get in their feelings about stuff like this, I'm like, just take care of your children and don't worry about what we're doing, because we do that. That's what we do. It's
right.
Like, we're like the handmaid.
Well, I think a lot of the issue is the hetero. Well, of course, it's ignorance, but a lot of people within the heterosexual community look at homosexuality as pedophilia, which is, and the reason why, two reasons why I say that is because recently I saw something on Instagram where there were a bunch of gay men in a pool and they accused a gay man of touching one of the children. Why? Because they're gay. Second is because I've been in a situation where I was raising someone's child that was not my child, and he alluded to the fact that we were touching his child. But, you as a man, a father, were absent from your child's life. And here I am, not his father, but for the love of the child. And because I was raised a certain way, I'm giving this child something that he did not have or does not have from you.
Right.
And it's really sad, truthfully.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tony.
I was gonna say, I used to work at a radio station, one of Cox radio stations here in Birmingham. I was a sales manager, and there was one of our female DJs. She had a little boy who was about the same as my oldest two kids were. And again, this is like back in the early 2000s. And I knew he didn't have a father, and I had custody of my kids. And I'm the fun parent. Like, I'm the person who's gonna go out there and play hide and seek. We're gonna go to Six Flags every weekend, And since he didn't have a father figure, I was like, well, don't mind hanging out with him on the weekends, because I got my boys. And we did that for like maybe 3 or 4 weeks. And then one Friday night, I was going to meet her on Saturday to pick up her son. And she called me. She goes, hey, Tony, I got a question I need to ask you. I'm like, okay, cool. Am I still going to pick up your son tomorrow? She's like, yeah. She said, but somebody at work said, and whenever someone said that to me, I always knew what the next part was. It was that I was gay. And I was like, are you going to say that somebody said that I was gay? She was like, yeah. I'm like, I am. She goes, well, why didn't you tell me? And I was like, because I wasn't planning on having sex with you. But you hang out with my son. And I'm like, well, I'm not having sex with him either. Like, I don't understand what orientation has to do with me being around children. And and we after that, I never saw that kid again.
Wow.
And I don't know where he is. I don't know what became of his life, but I know that it's important for kids, male and female, than the non-conforming, to have a male role model in their life. They need to experience all of the expanse of what humanity is. And for her to do that, I'm like, I'm spending money on your child and all this other stuff.
I'm loving your child.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's how sad for the child, because to have to be raised in an environment like that, she's raising a homophobic child. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I also think that aligns with racism too. You raise your children a certain way, and they grow up to be who they are. You raise your children not to like Black people or have some type of thought or negative connotation about people of a different skin complexion. And as they get older, they think that they're of a superior being because of the color of their skin or because of their sexual orientation, when a lot of people of color are very successful. A lot of people of color are owning businesses. A lot of people who are gay are owning businesses. A lot of people who are gay are heading the things that you very much so love. The Louis Vuittons, the Alexander McQueen's. I'm just naming names, but I'm not sure these people are gay, but I'm just saying,
So let me ask this question, guys, and I want to bring you into the conversation as well in a minute, Lil Gee. So do you feel, it's a two-part question. Yeah, Caleb, I'll start with you since you're talking. Do you, and this kind of goes back to shielding your child from anything, do you feel like you hold back some of your feminine ways or mannerisms around your child to not show that in you?
Oh,
and
definitely.
The second part is, do you shield them from more feminine presenting friends that might be LGBT?
Yes and yes. I shield my son from my feminine traits a lot of the times. I mean, because I'm a gay boy, and I'm a very proud gay boy, and sometimes I do quote unquote cut up. And I do have some gay friends who are a lot more feminine than I am and live in that femininity. I mean, the nails, the makeup, everything. And I don't want to confuse my child, because my child will see a gay man who is very feminine and, looks like a boy, but dresses like a woman. And I don't want to confuse him with assigning what gender it is. And so that's one of the things. And then the other thing is that
I want to ask you about that. So you feel like removing him from, or I guess not exposing him to that, is your effort in not confusing him?
My effort in not confusing him.
Do you feel like he's too young and wouldn't understand, or?
Well, I think he wouldn't understand. But in the same breath, though, because I have a lot of close friends who are trans women, he identifies them as women just as much as I would, because in my eyes, trans women are women.
Right.
So, but when he sees a gay boy who looks like a man, may have a beard, but has a full set of lashes and nails and makeup, that will confuse him, and I don't want to confuse him. And I don't want to.
What do you think is going to confuse him? Because I guess on one hand,
well, he's three. But
on one hand, he has to be taught what girls are allowed to do and what should do. So society says girls can wear pink and girls can wear dresses and girls can wear eyelashes and da 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 da.
That's another thing. First, I'm not one of those kind of dads either, because Caleb was infatuated with trolls, and I don't remember it for the life of me. The trolls that was pink. She was the star of the show.
Yeah.
I don't remember her name, but
I don't know anything about trolls.
Caleb was in love with that character. He was so in love with that character that I had to buy him a doll, like the doll that imitated the character. And I would buy the boy too, because I wanted him to see both of them. So he would gravitate towards the boy, what eventually he did. But
it's like you're teaching the same gender stereotype.
And that's probably my problem.
You are confusing him.
I'm not perfect, y'all.
Let go.
This is good though. No, this is good though, because I think that this is where it starts, right? Like society, where they assign these gender roles and what boys and girls can do. But I always think kids make things as confusing as, if you're confused, then they're going to be confused. But if you make it simply like, you know what? Some boys like to wear dresses. Some boys with beards like to wear makeup, and that's just what they do. Go ahead, Tony.
But here's the thing. Like, you asked about our feminine side. Like, I don't think I have a feminine side. I'm not one of those gays that can decorate. I dress like somebody's dad. Like, I'm not very fashionable. I just think the kids are going to be who they are. And Caleb, I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong at all, but it just sounds like the antiquated way that I used to think when we first, and I've evolved in the last 8 years. I'm just going to tell you, because when Quintus was a little boy, my husband's first cousin that we raised, he wanted a Dora the Explorer doll. And I was like, you will not buy that boy Dora the Explorer doll. That's not going to happen. And in retrospect, I'm like, what the hell is the Dora the Explorer doll? It's not going to change who he is. So like Maurice has ADHD. So he's one of those kids that if it comes up, it's going to come out. So I shield my friends from him because he's going to say. But one day, it was right after the Pulse tragedy, we had this benefit drag show at my drop-in center. And there were a lot of drag queens there. And there were some people that Maurice had seen before, but not in drag. And he walked up to one of the girls. He goes, you look like one of those girls on RuPaul, and just walked off. Like he didn't say anything bad. Because I was like, God, please don't let him say nothing crazy. But he was just being himself. And I think that we worry about what other people are gonna think. Like I remember listening to Lil Gee talking about how his initial recoiling from you was because of what other people think. When I think about when I told my mom I was gay, she didn't really necessarily care that I was gay. She just worried about what other people were gonna think, and not necessarily about what they're gonna think about the family. And at some point you just got to say, I'm gonna be who I am, and y'all deal with this on your own. Because anytime you ask me if I was gay, I'm like, well, if you're crazy enough to ask me, I'm crazy enough to tell you, and you're gonna have to deal with what you can't deal with. Because I am who I am, and I've been doing that for the last almost 30 years.
Yeah. So, Lil Gee, we're almost about to wrap this up. I want to ask you, since we're on this conversation about femininity and men, and I know that I probably act differently, probably even a subconscious thing when growing up, especially when you were growing up. Were you ever, because I know I have feminine ways and I have masculine ways. They may not be overtly feminine or nothing overtly masculine on the same token. Do you ever feel like you was like ashamed, or do you ever feel like you were like, damn, daddy act a little like a little girl sometimes? Or have you ever feel like you saw that in me and you were ashamed of it? Or like, what was that? I've never asked you this either. Like, what was your experience like with me and my behaviors, and if did that ever rub off or make you feel a certain way?
No, I mean, no, it didn't.
Did you ever see me as being feminine?
No. Like even like when I describe you to other people, like while I was like going through this, like probably like in elementary school or middle school, it was kind of like, but he don't act like a girl.
He's not that gay.
Yeah.
He don't act gay though. Is that what you would say?
Yeah.
That's like saying, oh, he gay, but he the top.
Right.
It's the same thing. So let me ask you this then, G. So being around my friends, because you will be around my friends a lot, and some of my friends are some of them might be more feminine than others. Did you ever see some of my friends as feminine, and did you ever feel uncomfortable being around them?
No, I don't think I ever was uncomfortable around your friends because they were feminine. It just like some of the stuff they may say, like
the gay.
Like
it is. Go ahead, Caleb.
Go ahead, G. I'm sorry.
I'll just say it'll be like, I can't believe that he just said that, but yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I think we as parents, we subconsciously do things to overcompensate and make sure that our children are protected, not realizing that we are a part of the problem.
Protecting ourselves.
Oh yeah, or protecting ourselves. Because I mean, I really, and every parent will, all parents should, most parents do want the best for their children. And sometimes we do subconsciously do things or say things that, not realizing that we're a part of the problem.
Yes.
But in our mind, we're thinking that we're, kind of helping that child grow to be something better, or what we think is better.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I always say is that homophobia, racism, they're all the bastard children of white supremacy, and we don't really realize how much it just infuses every part of our life. So like, even when you talk about masculinity is not a point. It is a spectrum. I know guys who are married, and I'm like, he acting like a film bottom, but he got this wife over here, and he could be totally straight. So it's one of those things where we have these ideas about what masculinity is supposed to be, and it's not. I got friends my nephew sews straight as an arrow. He sews all the time. But if you sew, people gonna think that you're gay. If you play the piano, then people gonna,
think you're soft. Yeah,
it's all these little boxes that we put ourselves in. And at this point in history, it's just time for us to be free and be who you are. I applaud parents who have young trans kids who allow them to be themselves at a young age. I have one of my godchildren is a young trans girl by the name of Lizzie, and when I met her name was Ben. And like less than a year ago, she didn't want to be called Ben anymore, and we didn't call her Ben anymore.
Right.
I will.
And that's her life, and she has the right to be who she wants to be.
I will say this. I'm very blessed to have someone that I have in my life right now because he has allowed me to see things from a different point of view. And what Tony just said, I'm going to piggyback on it. He has allowed me to look at my child and any child that we bring into this world. He's allowed me to look at them to say that, be proud of whoever you are, no matter who you become or what you decide to do or how you do it. Just like with Dwayne Wade and his daughter. He's even mentioned to me, if Caleb decides that he wants to be Caleb, we're going to be 100% proud of it. And that's why I say what I say earlier. Why I said what I said earlier is that my child wants to be trans, or if my child wants to be gay, I'm going to support my child 100%. Because no matter who Caleb decides, no matter what Caleb decides to do or who he decides to be, as long as he ain't hurting nobody, killing nobody, or stealing from somebody, and he, then I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, man. We gotta wrap this up, but I wanna to address one comment. I know we talked about this earlier, but one of the comments says that, and this is from Worldwide Reggie Nash. It says, it's so crazy to say you can't influence a kid's sexuality, but at the same time take precautions against it. And the only reason why I want to bring that up is because although we've talked about this, like we all know better. We know we cannot influence a child's sexuality, but at the same time that the way we were brought up, it still influences us to this day. I always tell people, like, just because you finally come out of the closet, that doesn't mean there's a lot more work that doesn't have to come out of coming out of the closet. Like, you still are trying to become more and more comfortable with yourself and undoing behaviors that you've been taught along the way. And it takes time to unravel all of that. So I think as humans, parents are humans, and we still just trying to figure it out as well. But I want to thank both of you guys again, walking in your truth. Fatherhood, I'm halfway through the book. I'm probably going to talk to you again, Tony. I'm so excited that there's a book about SGL Fatherhood, man. And this is really good. Please get it. Caleb, thank you, brother. Please reach out to me. My son is 19. Reach out to Tony. Let's continue these conversations. I'm here for you. I wish I had somebody that I could have talked to when I was raising my son.
This means so much to me. You have, look. This and you can attest to the little private chat that I said. I was literally about to tear up hearing the two of you all talk.
Well, I like tears. Tears make the ratings go up.
So let me get it. But no, that was awesome. And Lil Gee, man, I commend you. Man. It takes a lot of courage to do what you do and to say what you say and to stay 10 toes down for your fathers. And I think that's a beautiful thing. Continue to educate people, as you said.
Yes, thank you, Lil Gee, for joining me. Thank you for the courage, Lil Gee, for sharing your story. You don't know, you have no idea how many people you're impacting. And I always tell you, you have an extremely strong story. At 19, you are way far along than I ever been. Look at little Caleb. Hey, Caleb. Oh.
Y'all don't judge.
I remember when G was that little.
Oh, don't judge my baby head right now, y'all. We've been in the house all day.
Hey, everybody's watching. Everybody watching, please join me next week. I'm going to be talking to my husband. I'm talking to my couple therapists we had for the past 10 years, and I'm also talking to a sex therapist. And we're going to talk about our relationship over the past 12 years, and as it relates to sex, as it relates to emotions, as it relates to, being same-sex in a same-sex marriage. So please join me next week. If you haven't got my book, Black Enough, Man Enough, please pick it up. And until next week, we'll see you later.
Say bye-bye. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.